Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Lysol, sanitizing wipes.
Do it again.
Testing, 1, 2, 3.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Notice of the public hearing, 6:30 PM at Studio 75. Notice is hereby given that the president of the Board of Education, Monoline High School District 120, Lake County, Illinois, has called a public hearing to discuss the 2020-2021 budget for Tuesday, September 8th in Studio 75 at the East District Office, 470 North Lake Monoline, Illinois, at 6:30 PM. You can also view this meeting via Zoom at our link on the website. And I will call to order. 6:32. The secretary will now call the roll. Davalos. Here. Mellon. Here. Wimet.
Here.
Rastrelli.
Here.
Wellington.
Here.
Welcome. Yaki here. Vote. Here. Okay, so the next one is question and answers for 2020-2021 budget.
Well, a budget hearing is something that we do by law. We have to do, and before you approve the budget. I'm not going to rehash all the things that I did from the August meeting, but what I did tell you from the August meeting that there might be some changes to the budget. coming up this time around. There's a couple small things I do want to highlight for you. First of all is that we are going to get some additional federal funding. And this is going to be coming through the Lake County. And they got a large amount of CARES Act funds from the federal government. And originally they were just going to distribute those monies to local municipalities and those taxing bodies around Lake County. They decided, I'm not sure what their decision-making process was, but they decided to make more of that money available to school districts. For Mundelein High School, they've divided it out for all the school districts in Lake County. Our portion of that will be about $62,000, and it's on a reimbursement basis. So we send in the invoices to them, and they reimburse us for those dollars that we spend. And again, this money will just be for pandemic-related expenses. So we'd have to say why we spent those dollars to combat the effects of COVID-19 in our school districts. So for us, it'll be similar to what we're going to be spending our other federal dollars that we got CARES Act money for. Now it's about $177,000. And so it'll be a lot for technology, for food service costs that we have. Those sorts of things is what we'll spend this money on as well. And we can use it. It'll be a big help to us. I was talking to Dr. Meyer today, and Lake County has said that they're going to make more of those funds available to us. And they'll let us know that by the end of this week. I think by Friday, they'll put out something. They'll say what additional dollars we'll get. But for this budget, there's another $62,000 in there in federal dollars for pandemic-related expenses. I did make some adjustments for federal grants. Those can change from time to time when we do amendments to them, but at this point I've updated them as best I can. In this budget, as I mentioned before, we are likely, I shouldn't say likely, we will be doing amended budget later on this year. What I mentioned in August that hasn't changed at all is that this year is going to be a very interesting year from a budget standpoint as we look at going to hybrid models, could go from a hybrid model back to a remote model. The special ed department will be telling you more about bringing students back into the building. We're hoping to do that with our regular ed students as well. But all those costs can vary during the school year, and there's very different cost points for each of those types of models. So I tried to do my best job of putting that into the budget and anticipating what those expenses would be. But there's no way of knowing for absolute sure what those expenses could be and how long we might be in one model or the other. So those are built in. We also got some information from the state. As I mentioned back in August, they were saying that they're going to do level funding. And that sounds good given how bad things are for the state from a monetary standpoint. But one of the areas where they do give us a lot of money back is on special ed reimbursement for tuition. I'll try to explain it as simply as I can. With level funding, they've gotten a lot more requests for dollars this year. So if you had level funding from last year, but more requests for dollars, there's a smaller pie to split amongst all the school districts, if that makes sense to you. So they're keeping the funding level, but there's more expenses that people are claiming. So what they did, instead of giving more money to those who claim more, they're giving less to everybody else. So they additionally prorated us about another 10% on our special ed tuition reimbursement, which will be about a $20,000 loss to us. So that was one that wasn't the good news, but the good news is we are getting more in federal funding. So I also made a few little adjustments on some budget, on some benefit areas. Bottom line, it's about a $80,000 net decrease in our surplus for this year. So we'll still be balanced, but just barely. It's literally a balanced budget within a few dollars. So, but that's good. And again, that could change. I'll keep things up to date for you as things do change, as we change models, types of expenditures that come through, things that we'll have to do. But we do have a balanced budget, so that's the good news. I hope you enjoyed the report I sent to you. If you have any questions about that, a lot of it is the same information you saw from August, but just more of it. So any questions on that?
Thank you for the detailed explanation. It's very helpful.
You're welcome.
It's balanced to the good on how much approximately, Andy?
What's that?
What's the balance that we have?
$28.
Wow.
I played around a little bit to get it to just over the balanced budget. But yes, that's the slimmest I've ever seen. So we'll take it though.
Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Amy.
You'll have an opportunity to vote on that later this meeting.
Okay, we have citizens' comments, and I know there are some people here to make comments, but that will come in the next portion of the meeting. This was just about the budget, so I think everybody else is for some different reasons. So we're gonna, unless there's anyone that wants to raise their hand quickly? No, right? So if there's no further business to come before the board, this meeting stands adjourned. May I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
Lamette?
Yes.
Ristrelli?
Yes.
Wellington?
Yes.
Kathy, yes. Vogt?
Yes.
Davalos?
Yes.
Mellon?
Yes.
So,
Okay, we will now call to order the regular meeting at 6:39. Roll call?
Davalos?
Yes.
Mellon?
Here.
Lamette?
Here.
Ristrelli?
Yes.
Wellington?
Here.
Kathy here. Vogt?
Here.
6:39.
Okay. I see we have 3 people that signed up to have citizens comments. You're welcome to come up to the front. I'm just gonna call you and order. You will have, we welcome citizen input. Citizens are reminded to limit their comments to 3 minutes, and also that matters regarding employees or confidential student matters will not be allowed, nor will the board respond. So I'm gonna call Julie Salsky first.
Hi there, Julie Solsky here. So I'm here tonight as both a parent and an educator, so I get to see both ends, and I just don't see this as working right now for my household, so that's where I'm coming from. So I am currently back in my school. All the teachers are back in my field building, and now that we're all back, everybody is feeling safe. We've implemented procedures, and I feel like this is really an important first step. We had parent-child in person meet the teacher at my school. 300 kids are now back in my district. So I guess my question is, how are we being progressive at MHS? What are local school districts doing? Can we have a comparison of things that my kids have missed out on? So things like band camp in person, it's happening in other districts. Freshman orientation in person, it happened in other districts. We never got that moment back. My kids are already missing so many opportunities that other kids around them are experiencing. Versus the spring when maybe everybody was in the same boat, now it's extremely detrimental to their emotional health. They're seeing other kids doing it and they are not. So I guess that I'm just overall looking for updates, guidelines, not just a wait and see. I'm clearly in the majority of parents that want their kids back in school. I have 2 high achieving students. They're in AP and honors classes. I have a freshman and a junior. And I'll try to get through this little part, but I have to tell you that my girls are not happy. They're crying almost every single day. They are trying to get on the bandwagon, help other kids. And this is what my daughter posted today without me knowing that I was going to be here tonight. She said, I feel so bad for our teachers. Half of the kids in my Zoom have their cameras off and we're struggling to pay attention. They aren't motivated when they don't get to see us every day. They don't get to see us in the hall and talk to us about life like we used to. I know this isn't the ideal situation at all, but for all of our teachers who are trying so hard, please turn on your cameras for your teachers. You can tell how much they want to see our faces. I love all the MHS teachers so much. This was my sad moment of the day. It's really hard to see a kid at 16 years old advocating for something better. So that's why I'm here tonight. An okay education is not good enough for me. We need to do better. MHS can do better. Thank you.
Next one will be Tanya Collins.
Good evening, my name is Tanya Callis. I have currently a sophomore athlete, and my oldest is a senior, and I had 1 child graduate who will be graduating from U High this year. I want to go along with what Julie's saying. I have my oldest son is somebody who's always very positive, full of energy, energetic, has been at MHS usually since freshman year from 7:30 in the morning till 9 o'clock at night in activities. Here is a kid who people look up to because he's so friendly, so outgoing. And when that child comes to you and says, "This sucks, Mom," like everything has been taken away from me, I have nothing to look forward to, that's soul crushing as a parent. And I feel that we can do better. The e-learning, I know everybody is struggling. I'm not here to blame anybody or blame teachers, but I feel that we can do better. I proctored a SAT test 2 weeks ago, and if I can have 8 kids in front of me while I'm proctoring an SAT test, if I can work in front of patients every single day, we can do better for our kids. Those who want to continue e-learning should be able to do so, but I think that we can do better in some sort of hybrid model like other schools are doing. And it's been 6 months and I'm frustrated and feeling that there's no communication and what's our plan? What are we doing? What are we doing to look forward to the future for these kids? They are so disengaged in e-learning. We need to do better for them. And I want to know what that plan is. Thank you.
Thank you. The last one is Rebecca News or Dennis?
First of all, I just want to say thank you for all of the hard work you have put in to make the experience of the fall e-learning versus the spring. I think we can all agree that we've never dreamed we'd be here, and I think we're all just trying to do our best, so I thank you for that. I am here today because my daughter is a good student. She's very involved in school. She loves school. And just as they have said, she is really beaten down. And she doesn't like it. And I don't like to see that. I have nephews that are going to school in Wisconsin. They go 5 days a week in school. My high school I went to, they are in school Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. They deep clean on Wednesdays and the weekends. I have a friend from high school that is on the Kenosha Unified Administration team. They figured out a way to make it work. I just think there are other options. I think that people who want to stay home should have that ability, and people who want to be in school should have that choice. I work for Abbott. 107,000 employees worldwide. We figured it out. We were at 30% capacity. I've been in and out of the office since May. We moved to 50% capacity next week. I think it's possible. We can do it safely. And I hope that we can figure out how to do that moving forward. Thank you. See you next week. That's what they do at Abbott. They give you a temperature check, you wear your mask. And I think even being in school, just like if we can't attend a meeting, they send a WebEx or Teams or Google Classroom into that classroom, stream it for the people at home, have it in live for the students in school. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone have? Okay. Now we're going to move on to the consent agenda. Is there any questions on this before we motion to approve it? Okay. So may I have one motion for roll call on all the items listed below?
Second.
Fellows,
Yes.
Wellington,
Yes.
Yaffe, yes, vote,
Yes.
Mellon,
Yes.
Wilmette,
Yes.
Australia.
Yes.
Okay, so we had a lot of information in this last board packet to go through. Does anyone have any questions? I know we had the holiday yesterday that anyone needs to bring up quickly now, or should we go into the reports and? Okay, I think the first one we'll do is the business office.
There are 2 pieces that we're looking at. Of course, one of them is the budget, which we've already talked about. And the administration is recommending that you would approve that tonight. The second one is what I mentioned earlier, was the $62,000 we can get from Lake County. What that requires us to do, or you to do as a school board, is to approve an intergovernmental agreement with Lake County so that we can access those funds. So that will be on the agenda for you tonight to approve as well. And that just gives us the mechanism in order to get those dollars. I don't know if that'll, once that's there, I think that'll help us with any dollars they send us, even additional to what we're expecting this time. But that's the first step, and then we can start accessing those dollars once you approve that agreement. So any questions on those? That's it.
Reminder to the board,
Oh,
assuming we pass the budget, we need everyone to sign things so that we know. So we have all signatures for the budget.
there's one signature page on top which requires all yours.
Next will be Shane McCurry next. I know it's weird being these now. It feels very odd to see everyone, but please ask for questions if we need them, okay?
So I have two items to share with you this evening. The first is a PARA committee discussion. PARA stands for the Performance Evaluation Reform Act. What this does is it allows districts to have local control over how the district will engage in the evaluation of their certified teaching staff. Given the uncertainty with COVID being in a remote learning environment, possibly transitioning to a hybrid and then eventually a traditional learning environment, this impacts how an administrator would traditionally evaluate a teacher. And as such, we have requested that the PARA committee get together. It's equal numbers, administration and members of the teacher union, to get together to evaluate what an evaluation plan should or should not look like for this school year. Any questions regarding that? Once we have that meeting and reach an agreement, I will be back to provide that update. The second update I have for you is a change to a job description. This change comes with no additional compensation or benefit. This is to change the title of the position that is currently the Assistant Principal of Teaching and Learning. And the recommended change would be to change it to Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning. The other change to the job description would be that this position would now report to the district superintendent rather than the principal. Yes.
Could you give us a little bit of rationale just so we kind of understand why we're kind of changing that description?
Well, there's kind of two lenses to look at this. The first is more of a universal lens. Even though District 75 and 120 are completely separate districts, we are creating working relationships and similar structures with those districts. 75 has made some changes that make sense with the 120 organizational structure and vice versa. So when we have our collaboration meetings where you want to be able to develop a plan for teaching and learning programming to start at the lower grades and advance up to the high school, it's helpful if both of those parties report to the same decision maker, this being Dr. Myers. The second piece would be is that we are always trying to see what our peers are doing in terms of titles and things. And I think the most I've been up here is to switch job titles. Again, to make sure that we are utilizing best practices in terms of titles and responsibilities. Here we had the responsibilities, correct. We just didn't have the reporting line and structure the way that we thought it would be the most efficient and appropriate.
Shane, I was not able to read into the requirements of the job anything that specified that this position is responsible for connecting the feeder schools or bridging between incoming schools. I know that's already an expectation of the job, and that isn't changing, but I don't see it when I read the description.
Well, that piece is a given. There's an expectation to be collaborative with the other feeder schools. So while it wasn't noted in one of the 23 job descriptions, that is a key element on it to make sure that there is that's in sync with our district partners.
January 28th.
Oh, 28. You're right.
Maybe 29th.
Yeah. other duties as assigned. Any questions? Thank you.
Okay, thanks. All right, the next report will be the superintendent's office.
Good evening, everyone.
Hello.
So with the pandemic, the Illinois High School Association, which governs Illinois high school athletics primarily, and some other activities, had made a decision to create a fourth season. So we typically have always had fall, winter, and spring, and now they've added summer. And in our collective bargaining agreement with the teachers union, we did not have that fourth season, so we needed a memorandum of understanding to add that fourth season and the pay structure that goes behind it. And then the third piece of this memorandum is one of the activities, dance in particular, needed to move from the fall to the spring season. And so that was just detailed out in the contract, and we needed to make that amendment. So that is purely what this MOU is about. Any questions? All right.
Well, we're going to cover action part meeting. Is there any?
Presentation.
Okay.
Jamie?
Okay, first, thank you everyone for your time tonight. I know you are familiar with me since I'm at the board meetings typically, but I wanted to introduce my administration team, my special education administration team at the high school, who are absolutely amazing, and I couldn't do my job without them. So they're going to introduce themselves after you.
Hi, I'm Kim Goldberg. I'm the special ed department chair.
Candace Steele, assistant department chair.
I'm Michelle Bain. I am the transition coordinator.
Great, thanks. So tonight we want to talk to you about our phase B. Actually, we're going to talk about three phases. Phase A is the current phase we're in right now. That's the phase where our students with IEPs are in the 100% remote. We're going to talk to you about phase B in great detail. We want to bring in two programs to phase B. I know I can take this up when I'm up here, right? Okay. So just for a second, I'll take that. The two programs for phase B we want to discuss are supported learning program, which is called SLP, and that's for our 9th through 12th graders. And then we want to talk to you about our transition program, which is for students ages 18 through 22. So those are the two programs that we're going to focus on in our presentation tonight. Can you go to the next slide? Thanks. So our goals in planning for special education, obviously, since really we've been planning for special education return to school, just like all of our other departments and areas since the middle of March when we left. Our goals are to maximize our opportunities for engagement our goals have been during remote and hybrid learning, to prioritize in-person instructions for students with the most intensive IEP programming, to expedite more creative and interactive and engaging related service delivery. So what that is like our occupational therapy, our speech, our social work, those types of related services. And then finally, of course, to meet the legal requirements of the IEP by implementing it to the fullest extent possible in a virtual world, and then hybrid, and then back to full return. So those have been our goals and our mindset as we've kind of traveled through this journey. So we're going to talk about so far, and we're going to really focus first on our phase A, which is our students, where we're at right now. So in planning for phase A and for the future phases, we've worked with our special education subcommittee. So that's comprised of stakeholder staff and the 4 of us administrators. We got 6 staff on that committee. And then we also have, we met 11 times so far. So we're meeting almost weekly right now. And also engaging with our union leadership to discuss what that return to school would look like for the smaller group of students, as well as future progressions. Then there's, I have the privilege of being a part of the Special Education Director Network. We have a local Lake County one and a Lake and Cook County one. And the benefits of brainstorming with them every week throughout the summer and beyond and on evenings and all kinds of times is that it's nice for us to be able to be consistent or bounce off really good ideas that we can implement in the different school district settings. So that's been a really supportive work network. And then we've been working with also our attorney firm has provided a lot of professional development for us in the area of special education this summer, and then also working directly with our attorney just to bounce off kind of our plans and our next steps. Finally, we received data from our parents and our staff throughout the summer, throughout the spring, currently now. And then looking at our students in those more intensive programs, so supported learning program for our high schoolers, transition for our 18 to 22-year-olds, we've been engaging with each family to learn more about would they prefer to come in person soon or would they prefer that their student continue remote. So to give you an idea, our transition program has 20 students right now. Our supported learning program has 25 students right now. Amongst those 45 students, it's looking as though there's 38 parents right now that would like to see their students come in person out of the 45. So just to kind of give you, as we talk thoroughly through that phase B, so you kind of have that conceptual knowledge of how many kids we're talking about in two separate wings of the school.
That's of the 45, 38 students per, it's not like you get two votes for each parent, so it's 38 students.
Oh, sorry, yes, thank you, yes. 38 of the 45 families, 38 exactly, are planning to come in person. Thanks. Okay. So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Pam.
So right now, we're currently in phase A, where all of our students are fully remote. So all of our students, gen ed, special ed, are all attending classes via Zoom. We are providing related services like speech and social work and other ones through teletherapy, again, through Zoom or Google Meet. We're conducting IEP meetings through Google Meet as well. And we are working on creating individualized remote learning plans for all of our students with IEPs. And we'll go into more detail about each of these a little bit further on in the presentation.
So in addition to some supports that we're providing our students with IEPs, we are with parent consent, as well as following safety guidelines, we are doing driveway visits for some of our students with more intensive IEPs, anywhere from 1 to 4 visits a week. The goal or the purpose of those visits is to help students navigate the new technology, Canvas and Zoom, that they're working with, and with the increased time on the computer. We're also helping them with some skill building and academic support during their asynchronous time, as well as building their social communication. We also have a virtual Mustang Center where students can drop in and receive some academic support from the IA in a smaller group across all content areas. They can also receive some executive functioning skill building, as well as some social emotional guidance. And then upon request and according to the student's IEP, they can receive their testing accommodation in the virtual Mustang Center. And then we also have partnered with the Lake County Center for Independent Living to help weekly. They come in and provide some instruction on getting and maintaining a job, as well as living independently in the community.
Question about the, when we make these centers available and it's optional for them to call in at those times, are those getting used much?
Yeah, so we have really the testing with accommodations. We actually just had our first test today. So not a lot of tests in the first few weeks of the school year. And then as far as the drop-in center, we are, it's really been more of an avenue for the IAs to connect and say, this is a recurring Zoom link that we can then work on instructions. So we haven't had a lot just yet with students just showing up there, but because it's a reoccurring link, the student can go there, they know they're going to meet their IA, and then the person in charge of the virtual Mustang Center is placing them into a breakout room. So it has gained some traction just this week.
How do you schedule the driveway visits?
That's a great question. Because we have 25 students roughly who who are doing the driveway visits, and we have the IAs who are available. When we have a student who cannot tend to screen time, as long as maybe their peers, we then increase the amount of time that they can receive a driveway visit. So we do have some students in our supported learning program who are only tending to the screen anywhere from 10 to 15 minutes. But because in the supporting learning program, they have an IA who is assigned to that classroom, the student won't, or the IA won't always go to the virtual instruction. They will go in and connect with the students in the driveway. So I'm scheduling the driveway visits.
Okay. Thank you.
So just, well, we're still talking about the right now. So this is all phase A right now, and so Michelle's gonna share with you about transition right now.
Okay. All right, so what we're doing right now in transition, currently for phase A, I think it's important just to explain that transition, our schedule is vastly different than what a traditional high school schedule looks like. So we don't have a traditional 8-hour day scheduled every hour. We really focus on 4 areas in the transition world, which would be transition education, training, independent living, employment, and then the last one would be community. So community is really a struggle right now because we can't go into our community. We're addressing that through healthy living activities and recreation and leisure activities virtually. Our participants receive teletherapy from our related services a few different ways. Our related services are co-teaching with the classroom teachers. They're also doing some small groups, and then they are also doing some one-on-one instruction as it's needed. We are also using some vocational assessment boxes and doing driveway visits with the transition participants as well. I did bring a couple for you guys to see if you would like to at the end. The red box is only one of a set, but to give you an idea, the red box is like if we would have a participant who wanted to do vocational training in the future, this one focuses on how you would put together a sprinkler system. And then let's say we have a participant who needs to work on medication management. This one would try to mimic how you would fill a pillbox. So we have various levels of skills that we're using for these VOC assessment boxes, and we have around 40 total. So you'll see a slide at the very end that's just a sampling of what we have.
There it is.
Oh, there it is. Okay, in addition, our case managers and instructional assistants offer one-on-one support for our transition participants throughout the day. We are doing our remote transition through our Transition Center website. All of our IAs, all of our related service, all of our instructors have their links right to this website. And we really did this just for the ease of use for our participants and their parents. So here's an example of our phase A schedule. I say it's an example because transition education is individualized for each participant that we have. So we have 20 participants. We are currently working off of 20 different schedules. So we have a lot of moving parts every day. Each participant's schedule is different. So with this schedule, really throughout the school day, between 8 and 2:30, our participants have about 4 hours of online screen time. We thought more than 4 hours would be really taxing for them, so it's broken up throughout the day. They do have a large group where they can see their classmates in the morning and the afternoon. And then the one-on-one supports by our related services, case manager, and then instructional assistants are delivered in the large block in the morning and then again in the afternoon. We also are having them work on some healthy health plan and then a housekeeping plan. These are done off of screen time. These participants are doing this. It's their choice what they want to do. They're doing this around their house to try and get some real world experience because that's really why we're in transition. We want them out in the community experiencing all of this. So we're trying to mimic that in the home and give them some choice in what they're doing. I really think the best part of my year so far was when one of our participants who does have a job and is currently working at Jewel was able to make that connection between the tasks he is doing at Jewel and the cleaning and the stocking and mopping and wiping and all of those good things and what he was doing at home. And he shared that with the other participants. So for me, that's a win. Okay, so moving on to phase B.
So yes, we plan to move on to phase B, which is kind of the next step on October 5th. And as we mentioned, these are for students in the supported learning program. And just to give you a better idea, these are students who have IEPs with more intensive programming. So some of these students may have varying disabilities, autism, intellectual disabilities, specific learning disability, as well as varying levels of independence. Some students have one-to-one aid supporting them throughout their day, while others are more independent, navigating the hallways on their own. With that said, all students have a functional life skills curriculum that they have access to at their academic level. So you can see here, as maybe we mentioned already, there's 25 students in the program with 4 teachers. And as we move into phase B, we want to bring them back into a hybrid model. So with the 25 students, 4 teachers, that puts roughly 6 to 7 students in a class. When we bring them back in the hybrid model, we would have a group A, 3 students, and a group B, 3 to 4 students. As you can see, group A would come into the building for in-person instruction for their morning classes from 8:50 to 11:30 on Monday and Tuesday, go home for lunch, and then have the rest of their day remotely. Wednesday would be a remote day for all students. Then group B would come back into the building for in-person instruction on Thursday and Friday and essentially do the same schedule that group A just did on Monday and Tuesday. Some changes just to the curriculum to be able to support this. With our functional life skills, we had a vocations class and a life skills class. Some of that is going to be supported through our virtual field trips. And then like transition, we also do different vocational boxes that help support some of their vocational needs as well.
Okay, so back to the transition center. This is our sample hybrid schedule. So for what we would do to start bringing our participants back to us. We have 20 participants and 3 instructors. So for our participants, continuity is really key. So we would want to look at them coming back to us 4 mornings a week from about 8:30 until 11:30. That would be Monday through Thursday. We would have our afternoons and then Fridays remain virtual for our participants. They would eat lunch at home. And within our 3 instructors, because we do have 4 families that would like to remain virtual, your transition instructors are phenomenal, but they really are. 2 of them will take on our in-person learning. 1 will take on the virtual learning, and then they've agreed to rotate themselves so that not only one person has the virtual learning and that our participants can have the experience of being able to be with all 3 of them. So the way we would do this is we would have some transition whole group instruction in our mornings. We would also be looking at doing some in-house voc training. It's not ideal, but it's the best we can do with not being able to go out in the community. So Kevin Quinn has graciously said that our participants could work with maintenance. We also have the PACE lab within our transition center that they could be a part of. And then finally, we have our welcome center, so we could have them there. So while it sounds like, oh, we're gonna have, 16 people, participants in the transition center, we would be rotating. So the number would be more like 8 and 8. During this time, we would also be doing some cooking instruction, which they're not getting from us right now at home. We would do this in a one-to-one setting with an instructional assistant and a participant. So traditionally, we had been doing large meals, cooking and full recipes for a large group. Kind of start thinking that Pinterest individual aluminum foil, making something just for yourself to bring the scale down a lot, smaller for them. So it could be just something they do. I think one of the things about COVID, at the end of the day, it really stinks for all of us, okay? It just is what it is. But there's something for our adults and individuals with disabilities that I think a lot of us have not realized that's kind of a positive with COVID. You can shop online, right? So now we have this new world where we need to teach our participants how to grocery shop online. We don't have to go to the community right now to do that. So that's a new skill we can teach them. They can go pick up their groceries, right? That's something new. That's new to our world. It's new for them. And hey, delivery to their house. We can shop online, get our groceries, and have it delivered right to the transition center, which are real world skills that are a part of our world right now.
So you just described the phase B, and eventually after phase B is successful, and after a few weeks, we'd like to move into phase C, which would be bringing back more students into the building. These additions could include our STRIVE program, which is our self-contained program for students with emotional needs. We have students who spend the majority of their instructional day within our smaller class sizes that we would like to bring back. We also have our EL newcomer group, which is not a special ed group, but this is our English language learners group who could benefit from more in-person instruction. And then some adjustments to the programs that you were just described. So for SLP, instead of just having an A group and a B group, we would bring back all of the participants 4 days a week. Same thing with the transition center. This phase requires a lot more planning, and we have a lot to do over the next couple of weeks for transportation, for schedules, for lunches, for electives. So a lot of things that we still need to consider in order to bring back that larger group of students.
Kim?
Yes.
What would be the target date for phase C?
That's a really good question. I don't know. We really want to make sure, and part of our planning was to start small and make sure things are going well and that they're successful and that things are working the way we intended. So I think our plan is within a couple weeks to, look again and see if things are going well. We want to move forward as quickly as possible. So the planning is always taking place. Like Jamie said, we're meeting with our special ed subgroup regularly to continually look forward.
We seem to be we're chunking things in like 3-week increments. If that helps a little bit, that seems to be.
Can I ask a question about the timing as well?
Yeah.
You stole my question. But the original question was, how did you come up with October 5th?
Sure.
And what was it going to move into?
Sure, that's a great question. So one of the reasons so originally, to be honest, Crystal will obviously give you a little bit sooner than that, but as an example of just the depth of which preparation and looking at, the COVID numbers locally, the information from the health department, we did have a patch of a lot of younger age students with COVID cases around our area. So that was something to consider as well. But one of the pieces, just to give you like one example, was last week in working with the nurses, the Regional Office of Education had the N95. So a new requirement is that the nurses must have fitted N95s in order for you to have students in their building. And so as our nurses were testing the masks, many of those masks, even ones some of the school districts received from the ROE, weren't passing the test. So there's such a level of depth in like those safety type components that we have to take all of those things into consideration. So that we want it to be like 3 weeks out, 3 to 4 weeks out from the beginning of the school year. So that's kind of where we got it back over. Any other questions about the different phases before we have some other considerations and information for you too? Okay, great. So I just wanted to share a little bit. So sometimes I know we've talked together about our students in the private and public therapeutic day schools. So the public therapeutic day programs are the CEDAW programs, housed at various schools or at Laramont or on CEDAW campus, et cetera. And then we also have private therapeutic day schools where some students attend, so they might be in the Connections Network or just in other local towns, right? And so we have, in any given year, we typically have anywhere from 20 to 28, I would say, if I look at the last 5 years. In fact, actually, if you look back 5 or 6 years ago, we had close to 40, but now we sit up to 20 to 28 because we brought more students in-house that attend these public and private therapeutic day schools. So what I wanted to share with you is that we're in regular communication with the schools as their plans evolve. And so between the two districts, for example, we have 3 students where they're in person right now out of both districts in big numbers, right? So the amount of district or schools that the private days that have gone in person are few, but increasing. So some are thinking about going in person in the next few weeks as well. So we're staying in constant communication with the schools themselves, constant communication with the families, and we were able to confirm that as all of these schools move into in-person, just like within our philosophy, students will have the option to continue in the remote. So again, getting that data from the families. And our outplacement coordinator, she's spectacular. Her name is Melinda Finn. And so she's in constant communication with the families. And then obviously she and I meet weekly and just kind of work through what's going on with the different private and public therapeutic days. And again, our whole goal right now is to make sure that the families are supported and the students right now in that full remote are able to maintain their instruction, have all the supports that they need in place. Transportation, so for the first few kids that have started in these scenarios, again, just staying on top of the transportation and all those pieces as well to make sure that all of those safety protocols are in place, just like what we want to do for the kids coming into our buildings. So that's kind of how right now we're addressing students in public and private therapeutic day schools. Any questions on that? Okay, great.
So is it fair to, and there is no crystal ball, I understand that.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm struggling to understand is, are we ready to go into phase B, or are we waiting for something to happen so that we can go into phase B? Are we ready for phase B? Not yet.
I feel, so one of the things that we have been doing, and I think I might mention at the beginning, was just working with our staff to make sure that they feel that they have the confidence that they need and the support that they need in place to come in and work with our students. And so I do feel strongly that feeling does exist. Especially Candace and Michelle as direct supervisors for those programs have been working tremendously, regularly, constant contact. So we've ordered, that'll come up in a slide in a little bit. All the PPE that we have, we're ready. The PPE is in stock. We have it in a storage area at the high school right now. So I do feel we are ready. From a safety standpoint, I feel that we are ready. As far as from a programmatic standpoint and what's this going to look like instead of now all the boxes at home doing activities at school, this is a process, and we're just gonna, that's what we're working through too with our teams, like what does the day-to-day instruction look like? As far as waiting for another step to happen, again, I think it's just making sure the state, I gave the example of the nurses and the PPE mask, right? Like the fitted mask. There's just, there's a lot of information. It is, one thing is interesting is that looking at high school districts, it does seem very different as far as some student, only like 1 or 2 in my network have started to bring students in, or like one of the 2 is starting in like a week. And then we're like the next one, and there's still 7 or 8 in my network that are further out than we are. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I do feel confident though that we have the safety protocols in place to make this successful and to keep our students safe and our staff safe. Does that kind of answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't think it's an easy question to
Okay.
answer. I couldn't answer it, but I'm just curious if when we're ready, if we're ready to roll. If it's October 5th, it's October 5th. And we all know we want those kids, especially kids with those significant needs, to get in the surgery.
Absolutely.
Jamie?
Yes.
What kind of things are we hearing from the parents? How are things on their end? What are their major concerns? What are they saying about their students?
So I think actually Michelle and Candace could probably answer that a little bit better. The few parents that I've talked to have felt supported. The driveway visits, we started those during extended school year in the summer, and families were raving. We sent out a special ed letter last week. Within 2 minutes of it going out, I had a mom reach out and say, please tell me that my daughter will be eligible for driveway visits again, because that was the best thing ever. So I've gotten a lot of a positive feedback, and as far as like working through specific concerns, I know that there's been some concerns with screen time and things like that, but Candace and Michelle, is there anything that you would like to add?
I think the biggest concern we have is the parents that are like, you know what, this is all great and you're really trying, but our kids need to get back. And for these kids, you know, that hands-on learning is so important. So,
Can I comment as a community member or no?
Sure.
No.
Is that okay?
Right now, we have a couple more slides. We're almost to the end here, so I'm going to turn it over.
I'm sorry. Sorry about that. Totally distracted. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
So right now, and even in the spring and through the summer, we were holding all of our IEP meetings through Google Meet. They've been very successful. Parents can opt in for an in-person meeting if they choose, and then we'll make arrangements to make that happen. I think I probably attended, 20 or 30 meetings already, and we've just had our first request. So we're making arrangements for that. We document all of the attendance in our additional notes. Typically, we would send around a sign-in sheet, but anything that does require signatures for evaluations or anything like that would be sent through electronic means to get a digital signature. And then all drafts and final copies are emailed as long as that's possible. Otherwise, we can mail a physical copy upon request. Next one. Case study evaluations. So any student who needs an evaluation done this year, whether it's an initial or a 3-year reeval, we would look to see what components can we do remotely. So we met with all of our evaluation team members, and we developed a flow chart for kind of what do we already have? Do we have enough information? If not, what do we need? How do we do that? If anything we can do remotely, we will try and do. If we need to bring a student into the building for testing, we have all of the safety protocols in place to do that, and that would be by appointment. We have larger rooms for testing, plexiglass, gloves, hand sanitizer, kind of all the PPE that would be necessary to do that. Next. And individual remote learning plans. These are in addition to their current IEPs, and this would address any changes to what things would look like in a remote setting. So the things that are included in this are the student supports, any parent or guardian supports, accommodations, and what they might look differently during a remote setting, and any information that parents might have with concerns in the remote learning environment. And then these plans, again, do not replace the IEP, but kind of coincide with it. And then once we return to in-person instruction, the IEP goes back into full effect. These are about 1 or 2 pages long, and we have some exemplars created to help our case managers work through these, trying to get them all completed with over 300 to do probably the next month. Takes a while.
Does every student require them?
Say it again.
Does every student require IRLP?
Yes, every student
These
with
are
an IEP.
they're recommended that districts use IRLPs.
Okay.
Okay, so the health and safety of our students and staff are a priority, and we will be planning on following the ISB safety guidelines. As you can see, here are some. We'll have clear face masks for our students and staff, plexiglass dividers for all desks. The desks in the classrooms will be 6 feet apart, so maintaining that guideline as well. We'll have temperature and symptom checks on the buses that they will take in the morning. So that way we are able to ensure that they are feeling healthy when they get on the bus and ready for school. We have gowns and gloves in the event of, in our one-to-one situations or one-to-one students who have a one-to-one aide. And they may have to break that 6 feet barrier. We have spoken to the staff, and we have isolation gowns for those staff members, as well as face shields. In the classroom, we have freestanding sanitizing stations, daily cleaning of facilities after each class. And in the event that a student is unable to do it, we will have an aide support them in that. Other things that we'll be doing is we're going to be removing all fabric like items in the classroom, and we'll have no shared supplies. So any learning materials or manipulatives will be specifically assigned to a student. And I think that's it. So I'm sure there's other things that I'm forgetting, but that's pretty, we've gone through the safety guidelines and we're ensuring along with Kevin, Buildings and Grounds, to make sure that the classrooms are safe and following the guidelines for both students and staff.
Nice. One more question. Do you guys have something in terms of, protocol for what you're going to teach your students about how they adhere to these things? Because, I mean, I appreciate that everyone's doing out this work, but I kind of feel like they need to have some piece of it, like expectations for new behaviors.
Yeah, so that's a good question. And along with the survey and the questionnaire that we sent home to the families that, at least for the supported learning program I took the last week of August, like August 24th week, asking about whether or not they wanted to do in-person or hybrid. We also asked them whether or not they were comfortable wearing masks, and we also kind of know the students' ability level to be able to clean and sanitize, and those are all things that they will teach in the classroom. So an example is we did have a student come in over the summer just to build that stamina, and we took pictures of him sitting in his desk wearing the mask just to kind of reinforce that expectation, and we created social stories so that way he was able to come into the building and visualize himself there, and also increase that stamina of him wearing a mask.
We also have videos for them, we can write that on our SEL links that can show like hand washing and those types of good habits.
If a student would get it, how would that impact the rest of the students?
If a student were to get COVID, so I believe the safety guideline is that they would go home and quarantine for 14 days. And that would also be the students in the classroom if they were within that 6 feet proximity for more than, is it 20 minutes? It would be 15 minutes.
And so we would do the contact tracing process.
Yes, and then the contact. Okay, next slide. And then we're also going to address the transportation, so reducing students on the bus. Students in the SLP program also have special ed transportation, so we'll reduce those numbers, and we'll also put them to the best ability that we can, put them on the bus with the same students who are in their classrooms, so that way we can prevent kind of mixing of groups. And then they also were changing their drop-off and pickup location, so that way it's right outside their classroom, also to kind of minimize the interactions in the hallway with other individuals. And then I think I already mentioned that an IA will meet them at the bus stop to do the temperature check and the symptom checklist. Okay, so here is all of our information with our email. So if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.
Thank you for all of your hard work. This was quite a process. It will be class policy 105.
Last two items for the open meeting this evening are the really related to press policy. So we are on press number 105. This would be the first reading. As you go through it, it really outlines what are some of the 5-year review policies. So those are just ones that they say every 5 years. Be able to go through those, see if there's any updates or changes from an administrative to board level that you'd like to see take place. Ones that I would say, there's really only one I think that stands out that I've seen as different than what we've seen in years past. That's policy 2265, and it is regards to hearings and trainings. And what they've added in there is if the board actually does hearings for discipline or grievances, they're now suggesting that if that takes place, the board does have a training in regards to how to conduct those hearings. So right now, that's what we do. as a board. It's part of what's also in the contract for our certified staff. So that's something I think that as a board need to talk through of how we want to conduct that. And Anna is looking for trainings because this policy is so new. We don't even see trainings that are out there right now to be able to have that done for a board. But that's the one that's probably the most significant or one that we have not seen prior to today, going through for board policies. But we do have one more reading with Press 105. I would encourage you to please take the time to go through those. In your packet, I have responded with what the administration's response would be for those questions that they've listed, and they follow in line with what our past practice has been. So it's in line with our policies and procedures and from the school standpoint. Any questions in regards to 105? There is no action on that tonight. That'll be October. Then the last one, which probably I'm most excited about, is policy 712, racial and educational equity development. This falls in line with all the work that you have as a board and as us as a district have been doing for over the past 3 years. What Anna did was go through and try to look for other districts that had had similar policies. So of the ones that subscribe to Press Plus, which is the warehouse for school board policies, there were 2 other districts in the state that had a similar policy. And they're very close to one another. What I provided you is both of those samples. One is from Oak Park River Forest, and the other one is from Evanston and Skokie. They are both very similar in the sense that they identify what they believe equity is and means to them. The difference really is Oak Park River Forest lays out all the definitions. They say this is what racism means to us. This is what institutional racism means to us. This is what equity means to us. Then they list the accountabilities in general. So it goes to accountability. When you read the statements, they're statements, but they address whether it's a board level, really, admin level, student level, parent level. The difference is with 65, that's Evanston and Skokie, they flat out say board responsibility is this, and here's how they view that in the board's role. They then list out superintendent's role, which is really putting in the procedures that we would need to do for school district. And then it accounts into there what the student parent needs to be. So they're formatted different with a very similar layout. For you as a board, I'm standing before you to ask you to see what you would like to do to incorporate a policy that is very similar to this. It meets what we've been doing for the last 3 years. It supports and guides our work as an institution. We've been designated as a safe school. And to me, this is the next step for us to be able to take as a school district, so that what we will be able to do is make sure we're providing the type of education where every student and staff sees themselves in what's being taught and with how we are working together as a collective group to eventually get to the point where we can say institutionally, we don't have racism and our biases are not impacting the decisions we're making in order to create the educational environment we want for the students that we serve. So this is the time I'm asking for you to have some dialogue on what you'd like to do. My suggestion to you, this is a very heavy topic. Maybe you get a couple of you together to talk about what would be a draft policy you'd like to bring to the next board meeting in October, and then go over that with all of your colleagues. That's what I'm asking you to be able to talk through today. The other option, you can say you don't want to do it. And that's why we're here. Yes.
From a process perspective, wondering if there's a chance to get input from others, students or student groups.
Input on a board policy?
On what, and that's part of, I think, where we would want to go with this is how do we best serve from our position on the board? And if we're not getting input in terms of what we should be accountable to or what that would look like, then it feels like we're not focused on those who most benefit.
So board, this is where you have your discussion. What would you like to do? What would that look like for getting input from others? How would you want to set that up?
Haven't we already had some input in past? I think we have had some times when we've talked to students about what they wanted. I know, I think we could take some of that information and I don't know if it's changed, but I think we've talked to staff around the same issue. I don't know if we necessarily need to do a brand new outreach to see what they think, because I think we've got that information. Am I right, Kevin, when I say that?
It depends, I guess, on what you're looking for. So we have had different panel sessions and forums where we've had feedback from parents coming to us, from our students coming to us and talking with staff. Next month, October, it's been in the Friday updates. We have a panel of students coming before the board, and it's going to be a work session. So 5 o'clock won't be an official board meeting taking action, but they want to be able to engage with you on the conversation about equity within District 120. And they have suggestions on what policies they've read and how they can be modified that makes it more of an equitable policy. So there's one avenue. So there is, I understand, Lisa, where you're coming from with the input on what to be able to do. I'm trying to put it in my own perspective here a little bit was, with the other policies that we have in place that might be similar, what have we done with those to be able to get to a point where we felt this was the policies that we'd want to put in place, like the driving force from that. Because ultimately the policy is what the board is wanting to see happen. So if that means you want to go out and do parent forums and meet with more students, certainly do that. That would be something that you as a group would want to set up.
I think what I'm hearing from you is that you want to get the student perspective of where we need to focus our efforts to make equity a reality. Is that what I'm, to see how we can, what policies we can put in place and where we're not meeting that need right now, or what we can do as a board or have the administration do? Is that the input that you want?
Well, I guess my worldview is that to make progress in this area, collaborative listening, partnerships, perspectives matter. And these are both great starts. I just wonder if we would have a more meaningful outcome if we had something to anchor us in. And Laura, I was not around for the time you did those, so those are not visible to me, but it doesn't mean that those themes couldn't be incorporated.
No, I think a lot of it happened pre-pandemic, and we kind of put everything on hold since then, but yes, you're right.
So I think
Anyway, I'm not proposing a specific thing. I was just wondering, how will we know when we've done this? Is it just our perspective, or are we thinking more broadly?
Okay, so in October, we're having that meeting, like you said, maybe it would be interesting to hear what our students have to say.
Students, parents, but
And everyone.
So before we get too far, I appreciate what you're saying. Do we know every board member sitting around the table of where you are with wanting to do this policy?
Okay,
I mean,
let's find that out.
Part of it. I mean, there's no sense in moving forward if we're not past that point yet.
Okay, I'm definitely interested in having something concrete that we can be accountable for, that we can see about. And I'd like the collaborative idea. Tom, how are you feeling?
Yeah, I agree. I also would like the idea of working with District 75 as well on this. I think it'd be nice to have a unified policy for districts in our area.
Yeah, I'm on board.
Okay. Lisa, I'm assuming you're on board.
Yeah, I'm on board as well, and I think our starting point might be meeting with that group next month. I think we're gonna get a piece of that feedback that we want once we meet with that group. Then we might have a better idea of where we wanna go next.
Yeah, I'm on board.
Yeah, we did start everything pre-pandemic and then some stuff. And I guess it will be a refresher for everyone too.
And I felt like there's been a need for a long time, so I'm definitely on board.
I think you've got the entire board on board. And I think we'll start with kind of the information we get from that meeting.
Yep.
And everybody kind of go through this and see if there's something you don't like or something you really think that hits the nail on the head, and bring that with you so that we can kind of work through this Is there anyone who's interested in like working with someone once we get a few more pieces of information? Like, is someone interested in, you know, going deeper? Laura? Yeah,
I'd like
Lisa?
to talk to them, yeah.
Okay,
Laura and Lisa?
Laura, Lisa.
So are you suggesting we wait to do something, or that Laura and I get, or anybody else, get together and kind of pick from this and put something to react to?
That's what I would anticipate. I would say you guys get together, since we have till October, we've got some time. If you guys have a time to get together or talk on the phone, however you guys want to do it, just to kind of look through and say, okay, this really speaks to me. I think this has to be in it. And then that'll give us something to start with.
I just want to add again real quick with Kevin, with our shared services with District 75, we talked in the past about expectations from kindergarten all through high school. So I think it would really be important, since we have shared services with 75, to have them on board as well. When that time comes, to bring them in, what you did with shared services, two board members.
When is their next board meeting?
2 weeks.
Okay, is there a chance that you could find out from them if they're interested in doing this and kind of working with it?
This is on their agenda as well.
Okay, so maybe
So I
tell them we're looking at, we
23rd.
have 2 board members that are interested in pursuing it, we'd kind of like to be unified about it.
got it.
Okay.
Okay. So Laura and Lisa, if you need anything else from me, as far as resources wise, if we can help, just please give a call. Okay? All right. End of my report.
Okay, thank you. Okay. So next thing we have is board action items. Okay, so our action items right now, the first one is the fiscal year 2020-2021 annual budget. Any quick questions before we take action? Okay. The recommended motion is that the Board of Education of Mundelein High School District 120 accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the fiscal year 2020-2021 annual budget as presented.
So moved.
Yeah, motion. I don't think-
Wimett?
Yes.
Rostali?
Yes.
Wellington?
Yes.
Yaki, yes. Vote?
Yes.
Pavlos?
Yes.
Mellon?
Yes.
Okay, the next one is the intergovernmental agreement COVID-19 relief fund. The recommended motion is that the Board of Education of Mundelein High School District 120 accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the intergovernmental agreement COVID-19 relief fund with the County of Lake as presented.
So moved.
Mellon?
Yes.
Pavlos?
Yes.
Wimett?
Yes.
Rostali?
Yes.
Wellington?
Yes.
Yaki, yes. Vote?
Yes. And the next one is memorandum of understanding, section 4.8. The recommended motion is that the Board of Education of Mundelein High School District 120 accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the memorandum of understanding regarding section 4.8 pay periods in the 2020 to 2022 Mundelein Education Association contract as presented. Sorry, that was a mouthful.
So moved.
Second.
Wimett?
Yes.
Wellington?
Yes.
Yaki, yes. Vote?
Yes.
Pavlos?
Yes.
Mellon?
Yes.
Rostali?
Yes.
And the last one is the job description title change. Any questions or good on that one? Okay. Recommended motion is that the Board of Education of Mundelein High School District 120 to accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the job description title change as presented.
So second.
Rostali?
Yes.
Mellon?
Yes.
Wimett?
Yes.
Wellington?
Yes.
Yaki, yes. Vote?
Yes.
Pavlos?
Yes.
Okay, so the next thing we have is the executive session. We'll need to adjourn to for the appointment, employment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of public employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. and litigation when an action against, affecting, or on behalf of a particular public body has been filed and is pending before a court or administrative tribunal, or when the public body finds that an action is probable or imminent, in which case the basis for the finding shall be recorded and entered into the minutes of the closed meeting minutes, and discussion of minutes of meetings lawfully closed under the open, sorry, this is harder than I thought. Under the Open Meetings Act, whether for proposed of approval by the body of minutes or the semi-annual review of the minutes as mandated by section 2.06. Okay, action may be taken as a result of executive session. I have a motion to adjourn regular session.
Second.
Mullins. Mellon?
Yes.
Wellington?
Yes.
Yaffe, yes. Vogt?
Yes.
Davalos?
Yes.
Wimet?
Yes.
Australia?
Yes.
7:48.
Okay. This will be a chance for you guys to, but thank you all for coming tonight and showing your support, and the teachers to give us a perspective. We may have a motion to resume the late session.
8:11.
Australia?
Yes.
Davalos?
Yes.
8:10.
Mellon?
Yes.
Wimet?
Yes.
Wellington?
Yes.
Yaffe, yes. Vogt?
Yes. The last motion that we need to do is the executive session minutes. The recommended motion is that the Board of Education of Mundelein High School District 120 accept the superintendent's recommendation to approve the executive session minutes for August 4th, 2020, August 11th, 2020, August 12th, 2020, and August 20th, 2020. I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Australia? I'm sorry, I did that backwards. Mellon?
Yes.
Australia?
Yes.
Wellington?
Abstain.
Yaffe, yes. Vogt?
Yes.
Davalos?
Yes.
Wimet?
Abstain.
Okay, and then the next thing is President's prerogative. So Erin, I don't know if you've been on a board or if your board at the district where you work at has this, but this is kind of a moment where I can kind of update you on two things and get a little bit of input from what we're looking to do. So the first thing, someone brought it to my attention. We're coming up to the opening to the election where you can get your information, get your signatures and whatnot. So if yourself needs to get your information or signatures, or if you know someone that you would encourage to run for the board, now's the time. And if anybody needs the information, it's on the IASB website, or it's probably in this somewhere online. So if you need it, I have it.
Do you know offhand they changed any requirements to the color in terms of number of signatures?
You know what, that would,
Yeah.
that would be interesting. I'm not sure.
Okay.
I
Just curious.
I wouldn't think so, but I don't know.
It has on this IASB information, it says that it has information about the whole process, including suggestions for gathering signatures in a closed environment.
Honestly, I think that ISBE and the Lake County Clerk have got a lot more things on their minds right now than changing requirements for.
Electronic signature
Yeah.
would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, that would be.
Nice.
Okay, and then, so I'm gonna put that October meeting with the equity, that'll be good, so we should work on that. Do you guys have any other information that you want to get to them before that? One thing for you, Kevin, like, what are we kind of looking at, like, I think we're starting to see the change of people wanting, like, some people want their kids back. It was interesting to see how many special ed parents want their kids back in school. How long have the Lake County health guidelines changed? I mean, that's what I'm saying.
None of the metrics have changed their guidelines. If you look at the metrics for what they've done for the county and you pull up our zip code, And you use the incident rate per 100,000 and the rolling day, 7-day percentage. They both list us as being in the hybrid model range, where they felt, at least from their perspective, that it would be suitable for them. Numbers have continued to increase since May, or since June, but still within reasonable numbers. What we had originally planned was, when we said we were going to start off with remote, was to wait the first 3 weeks and then get more feedback for how things were going. And then we are planned to meet next week, the week of the 14th, with union leadership to say, okay, let's start looking at what are some hybrid models to be able to start bringing kids back into the building. So that's how we're going to approach it.
Okay.
That's what I'll share with the parents out there. But our goal is to try to see our students come back into the building. That's what we do want to do. We're not putting a timetable on when they can or can't come back. Ultimately, the experiences, or at least what I'm hearing, it comes down to a lot of ways confidence. Our students, our parents, and our staff all need to be confident coming back into the building and starting getting back to some of that normalcy. Because what we're finding out is, we ran summer camps for athletics all summer. That went fine. The fall season's on its way. That's going all right. And now they're going to start doing the contact days, and that's moving okay. So we're trending in the right direction for getting back into the building. It's just going to take more time. People have to understand that we're not always going to be at 6 feet, but we're going to do everything we can to make sure we have protective clothing on and maintain the distance as best we can.
What about things like the media center and activities? Are those happening yet in the building?
So the media center, they're open, and I know they're doing things virtually. I don't believe they're actually physically having students come in yet. The activities are supposed to be getting started. So they just finished approving those of what they're going to say could run. So Mike Pope was working on that.
Good.
Yes. So we're trying to get more and more of the smaller groups of kids together to see how it works, to be more controllable. So like the 8th, tomorrow, they're going to start with sports, and they're starting with the varsity teams and keeping them in groups of 50 or less. And then depending on how that goes, they got a time frame, but then they'll go to the next level, try to add more kids in.
Okay, I think that's a good trend that we're
I
moving that
just
way.
have to reiterate this thing that's like really kind of nagging at me, but I just think that if the students are really crying every day, et cetera, about coming back to school, that they need to bear some of the responsibility of coming back. They need to take on the burden of, you can't just come back and run into the arms of your friends. You can't just come back and be buddy-buddy with your pals walking through the hall, carrying conversations without masks on. You have to take some accountability. You know, the teachers have done everything they can, the staff and the admin and the parents have been working hard to make this happen. So now show them that you are worth it by adhering to the same kind of things that the rest of us are. So that's just my own 2 cents. I don't want them to, it really bothered me when that woman said that there are kids whose videos are off during, it's like, that shouldn't even be tolerated. So that the kids have the ability to just say, shut out, that bothers me. So.
The reason why sometimes the videos are off, though, I think when you're in the elementary level, it's different, but at the high school level, there's a certain way people want to look or be perceived. And we don't have the background screen availability yet. I know my daughter, I kind of came down on it, but I do know one of her friends, like she has a very small house, and it's very challenging to have everything. So while I would love to have that a requirement, and especially for teachers, because I think looking at 24 little blank squares is disheartening to the teacher as well. I don't think we can mandate it unless we would have a way to do a background screen for them that it would be generic. Like you wouldn't have to see inside their homes. I think that's
correct.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you a side note, I have a student in one of my own classes that was hospitalized for last week and this week because she had a mental breakdown. And they already told me when she comes back, don't ask for questions, don't ask her to turn her camera on. So I know there are some kids that are really struggling.
Yeah, so because I kind of had that same feeling. I'm like, your teacher needs to know you're interested, but right now, everybody's wound very, very tight. And parents as well, with just getting that. So I'm glad we know that. How long is it gonna take to get transportation arranged if we go back into a hybrid model? Do you have that all mapped out, like you can turn it on a dime?
So we won't be able to turn on a dime.
Okay.
Because it all depends on what's in the hybrid.
Okay.
What grade levels, what students. They said they need approximately 2 weeks, depending on what else is going on, but they asked for 2 weeks. If it wasn't, I bet we might be able to do a little bit less, depending on the number of students.
Now, do you have any preferences? Are we trying to get like seniors back a little bit more or freshmen back because they don't know the building as much? Like, is there, I know what we discussed before with the alternating schedule and whatnot, but like, have you, after your meeting next week, will you maybe we should focus on the freshmen a little bit, getting them back in, or is there any playroom there?
Yes. After that meeting next week, I hope we have that better defined. What we did talk about when the first reopening plans came out from the state was following all their guidelines, like looking at some of the highest need students first, and then starting out youngest and going up, just for getting acclimated better, and knowing the level of independence usually you hope increases the older they get. At some point, I can tell you, for me, it decreases, but that would be the idea behind it. So I would anticipate if we're doing anything, we'd probably start looking at freshmen, 9th grade first, and then working their way up.
Well, wasn't it, it was freshman special education and students who had a hard time on the remote learning platform?
Yeah,
right?
or ELL,
Those
yeah.
are the big targeted groups. We talked about it last week.
Okay, I just kind of want to have that.
When do we start to get a sense of who our at-risk are?
Seniors?
Yeah,
Like
at risk of
graduation.
not graduating. Do we already have a good sense of who
Oh,
they
yeah,
are?
we already know who the kids would be in jeopardy, and the counselors are following up with them now. Yeah.
Is there any other discussions that you guys feel like we need to have during this challenging time period?
Can we chat a little bit about how we handle information that gets emailed to us, or if it's not emailed to all of us, or if it is the assumption that it's been emailed to all of us, but it doesn't get to all of us, and how we do or do not respond?
Okay, can I tell it, and if I mess it up, you can take over? Okay, we're having a little bit of discussion because of the Open Meetings Act and all the regulations that go around with it. If we get a group text, you should not respond to the whole group. Or email, you should not respond to everyone. You respond to it individually, because if there's more than 3 of us in the conversation, it's considered a meeting. Okay? If anyone gets an individual email specifically to you, our policy is to share it with everyone so that we all are working from the same information.
So wait, does that mean we get something sent to us, but then we forward it to everybody?
Kevin, I'm gonna let you, I thought the thing was we were gonna have everybody be apprised of what the questions were.
So part one might be happening, so what I would suggest, how it's set up on the website. If an email comes into the board, it should be going to everybody. So everybody, if one person gets an email, like if they think they just want to email Tom or Peter, it should populate to everybody.
Can I ask for clarification on that? Like for tonight, you mentioned you got.
Yeah, I got one this morning. I don't know if anybody else got it.
I didn't get anything. But then, like, I had gotten an email to me about creative ways to save money for the district, but I don't think that went to everybody.
I do think, Kevin, I think he's right, though. I think
You
I've
wanna write that
gotten one
down,
too,
Luke?
that came to me but did not go to everyone else.
Well, aren't you talking, when you say it should go to everyone, that's anything coming in that goes to a certain kind of email, right? To the Board of Education as opposed to us or individual emails.
So usually if they go to the website, they click on your name, that one typically would go to everybody. Now, if they know how our emails work, with your first letter, initial, your first name and your last name, they can send it to you directly.
Okay, I think that's what's happening. I think people are sending it to.
I get a special education email every week.
What was the one this morning that you got?
was one of the people that was here tonight. She posted something on Facebook last night and then pretty much just copied what was on Facebook and emailed it to me.
Your board email.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And
So I assumed everybody got it, but then I was talking to Peter when we were coming in and he hadn't gotten it.
And then I got an email about, from a parent of a special education student, stating the need for these students to get that. But I didn't know if that came to me because I'm a psychologist or if it was because I was on the board. And everybody on the board got that.
We did not get that one.
Well, I could tell it was targeted, it came toward me.
Anytime I'm getting, and Laura, you can probably, I always send it to Kevin
Yeah,
and Laura.
that's what I've been doing too.
You said just in case you guys, because it's a board policy for the board president to respond, not us.
Right.
Okay, yeah, I feel like I did not get those two, so I didn't respond to those two. And I'm gonna ask you guys this just as a consensus. I usually answer and kind of like to let them know that I got it. And if they want further details about like when we're reopening or what guidelines we're following, I'll refer them to Kevin. Do you guys feel more comfortable if I respond with like a generic, thank you for your inquiry, I received your email, you know, I will just whatever.
Probably, because I could see somebody starting to ramp up there.
Yeah, just because of this time period right now, people are very sensitive. So,
Me personally, I think we should be consistent that you always respond, and then if you want to choose gifts and Kevin, that's fine. You know, kind of like you did with the teachers union email. You responded and copied all of it.
Mhm.
But one voice, one board, one voice.
okay. Okay, I'll come up with something, or I don't know if Anna has something, but we'll do that. We'll just do a kind of a, you got your inquiry. And then, when those come in, I'll copy everyone in them.
So what we're saying is anytime a board member receives an email, forward it to Laura and you can copy me.
Yep.
And then we'll look at how to respond or not, and then just find out, make sure how we're keeping the rest of the board in the loop. Okay, so you know, at least, what I'd say is minimally, we'll follow up directly with at least the board member that received that email, so you know.
Good point. Okay, is there anything else we need to discuss? I think trainings are gonna be minimal. Obviously, the November thing is canceled. So IASB keeps emailing stuff out. If there's any webinars you're interested, sign up.
There is a Lake Division virtual meeting,
Yeah.
October 14th.
So if anyone.
Typically, we would go to those.
Oh, and I wanted to say congratulations. We did win the
Board governance.
board governance. Congratulations, we got the board governance award. So, because the board governance award is, everyone has to do so much professional development and trainings, and we did it. So, I just got notified of that last.
Where I can help.
We have to step up next year. So,
So like a pin we get to wear at the conference we don't get to go to.
yeah, you can wear it on your Zoom call, like focus in. How's everybody's kids doing? Is everybody's kids doing okay? For those who have kids here? Mine are not crying every day. I almost let the two, like there's just different levels of emotion that go with it.
I think it's a bit awkward that our students need to video themselves doing their workouts and upload them for the teachers. I think it's awkward.
Can't hear you.
The students need to video themselves doing their workouts and upload it for the teachers. Upload it so the teachers can see that they're using the correct form and actually doing it and whatever. My daughter's not comfortable with it, and I don't blame her.
Well, I think there, does it come back to she doesn't want to have the video on while she's doing it?
And she feels awkward videoing herself doing a workout and putting it online.
Can she do the video while they're doing it in the class? I know my daughter Emma's doing it too, and she just does it while the whole class is doing it.
I'll ask. I don't know.
Okay.
There are a lot of emails coming in as a parent for like links and reminders, and it's a bunch. especially those with multiple kids, to keep track of the emails and which emails are coming for which student it's a lot. I think parents have to be more engaged. They're expected to be more engaged in some specific ways that they weren't before.
I think the open house is gonna be challenging for everyone, because I know I have 2 kids right now that are here, and I won't make all of those. I just can't. So I hope that they understand that. I don't know what's in the air here, but it's making my eyes water so bad.
I got a quick funny story for you. At least I thought it was funny. So I'm home and my 6-year-old is E75. He decided to make his office my office. So we're kind of sharing the same office. And he was in there, and then last week we had that storm, that windy storm. Well, his class was going on, and the teacher got knocked out. The internet knocked him out. So Zoom randomly selected somebody to be the host. And it was one of the girls in the 6th grade. The conversation for like 15 minutes between all the kids was a riot. I mean, it was just all of them suggesting what to do. What do you think we should do? Read. Let's wait till he gets back on. And for what it's worth, it seemed like that there was some collaborative effort going on there that was not kind of what they said. So
And it wasn't Lord of the Flies either?
Pardon?
It wasn't Lord of the Flies?
No, but I will say that was only one, but the other part of me just said, please get back in school. There's just so much junk going on there.
That's all I needed to discuss today. I want to thank everybody. I know this is a challenging time to be a board member with everything that's going on. So please, if you're running, fill out those forms, because it's going to be a rough ride for another year. And thanks, Kevin, for all the work that you've done, and Anna and everyone for figuring out what should we do next, because you know, I see what was going on in Wisconsin, and there's no mandate and there's no one guideline that anyone's following. So it's just going to be, I'm glad we're being very thoughtful about how we're going about bringing our kids back, because I mean, I saw at Iowa State, my daughter's there, their quarantine halls are overrun, the kids aren't listening. Northwestern just kicked out 11 freshmen, didn't refund their tuition because they weren't social distancing. It is going to be a challenging year, but we're going to work through it. So
if there's one thing I took from what we heard tonight as an opportunity from the speakers, was them asking what's the plan. And even though we don't have can't tell them exactly what the plan is, I think it would be helpful to be communicating that our intention is to get students back. We're starting to phase things in. Here are the considerations we have. And of course, caveat that at any time, we might need to go back to more virtual or more remote learning. And thankfully, we've invested what it takes to establish that well. So.
yeah, that might be a good communication, because I would say the 2 or 3 emails that I've gotten are people like, well, what's the plan? Like, well, we're following guidelines. Our intention is to get the students back in the classroom, but we have to make sure our staff and our students are coming back at a safe way.
Already, right? I was going to talk about the PPE for the staff and everything. We're just waiting like maybe for the Bacon and health department to give that.
Well, like Jamie said, I didn't know that the mask failed. Like she had the yeah, but parents wouldn't know that there's a lot of little nitty gritty details that we have to take care of, that they just want to hear the kids going back. So
I really liked the special ed plan, and those high need kids at my school have been back since day one, so I've been actually able to see it in person, and they're taking a lot of the same precautions that they presented. Right? So, and it's, you know, knock on wood, they're 3 weeks in, and it's been okay so far.
Yeah, let's just hope we keep trending in the right direction. Okay. Well, if everybody's good,
I just thought we might need to assign a mentor for Aaron.
Oh, yeah, and I would like to have copies of you in case there's questions or.
Okay.
So.
We need to assign a mentor.
Okay. Who would like to be a mentor?
I'm gonna write mentor, but I'll be a mentor.
Qualified to be a mentor.
I was gonna say, you're, Laura, do you wanna?
So we bounce ideas off of.
Okay.
Okay, sounds good.
And I will email or text you with, when we can get together maybe next week.
Yeah.
I'm not only the longest serving board member here, I'm also the oldest.
Commercial.
I know.
The voice of experience has been through it all.
You should say, Dave, how many pounds you have? I'm working out.
Before you guys leave, we need everyone's signature.
Don't walk out that door without signing.
In addition to that, there are a number of things in here that need Laura, your signature. As the person running that meeting for the interview process. So there are a number of those in here as well.
You all have a blue pen that I left in your little thing. That's what you use to sign, please.
So may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Arnett?
Yes.
Pacelli?
Yes.
Ellington?
Yes.
Yasi, yes. Vogt?
Yes.
Davalos?
Yes.
Mello?
Yes. And can we be introduced to our videographer?
This is Luke.
Oh, hello.
Hi, Lou. Hi, nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for recording.